With the Trade Federation moving to invade the planet of Naboo, Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan secretly make their way down to the planet where they hope to remain undetected and somehow make it to Theed, where they can then rescue the Queen and make it to Coruscant unharmed and warn the Republic of this treachery. Now, as luck would have it, the cargo ship that they're on doesn't land on the other side of the planet, which would require for them to travel through the planet core in order to reach Theed. Still, it does, however, land too far from the city, so far that they do not even attempt getting there by foot. As Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon are quietly thinking about their next move, they hear something approaching. Upon further investigation, they realize that two B-1 battle droids are approaching on their STAPs. Both Jedi look at each other as if knowing that they're probably thinking the same thing. As he is hiding, Qui-Gon waits for the droids to be in his vicinity, and as they approach him, that is when Qui-Gon stands up and uses the Force to freeze both droids riding their aerial platforms, giving Obi-Wan a chance to get rid of them with his lightsaber. With both of them now finding a means of transport, they proceeded in taking both STAPs and charging towards the city, as they knew that there was not a lot of time left if they were to save the Queen and warn the Republic. They eventually do arrive and are now inside the city of Theed. Meanwhile, the Viceroy has sent Queen Amidala and the others to be processed in Camp 4. While on their way there, it is the Jedi that notice the Queen being escorted by droids. They hide and wait for their chance. When the time comes, they attack the droids, destroying them all and freeing the Queen in the process. They proceed to the hangar bay, and after taking care of some battle droids, they all boarded the Nubian starship as they tried to escape the planet. Of course, one thing that couldn't be avoided was the blockade that was waiting for them once they left the planet, and as they tried to escape, they were hit. The damage was in the hyperdrive, and they needed to replace it with a new one, or their trip to Coruscant was going to be a short one. They noticed that the nearest planet they could make it is Tatooine, and hopefully they could find the hyperdrive that they need over there. Upon landing, Qui-Gon tells Obi-Wan to look after the ship as he wants to embark on this mission alone. It is at this time that Captain Panaka approaches the Jedi and tells him that the handmaiden will join him because the Queen is curious about the planet. Qui-Gon reluctantly accepts as they both start walking towards Mos Espa. Upon arriving, they find their way to Watto's shop, where Qui-Gon starts negotiating with Watto. Meanwhile, Anakin is fascinated by the beauty that is in front of him as he asks Padme, "Are you an angel?" Qui-Gon, upon realizing that the negotiations with Watto are going nowhere, leaves with Padme as Anakin is sad to see her go, but also happy about the fact that Watto lets him go home early. Qui-Gon has hit a dead end. Walking and not really sure of himself, he starts noticing that somebody is following him and Padme. He turns a corner and tells Padme to stay still as he waits for the person to reveal themselves. He takes out his lightsaber, waiting for the person to show his face before he ignites it and attacks, when suddenly there he was in front of them. It was little Anakin. Qui-Gon quickly hides his lightsaber, but not before Anakin could see it. He warns both Padme and Qui-Gon that a sandstorm is coming and that they should follow him to his home for shelter. Of course, we all know the rest. It is at this time that Qui-Gon starts to suspect that the boy had Jedi traits and could really be the chosen one. Qui-Gon convinces Watto to bet his hyperdrive on the pod race in exchange for his ship, while convincing to release the boy as well. Watto winds up losing the bet, which means our heroes proceed with their journey to Coruscant, where they see that there is no immediate diplomatic solution to the crisis in Naboo, and not even the Senate can help. They take immediate action, as the Queen decides that she is going to return to Naboo together with her handmaidens and guards, while the Jedi agree to accompany her as well. While on the way to Naboo, they start devising a plan, which they quickly realize that it's close to impossible. Their plan is to somehow take hold of the Viceroy and force him to sign a new treaty. The problem with this plan is that the Trade Federation army is protecting Viceroy Gunray, and they have hold of the city, so in order for them to realize their plan, they needed a distraction outside of the city so that the army would be forced to engage. Suddenly, Panaka remembers that there is in fact somebody on that planet. It's the Gungans and their leader, Boss Rugor Nass. He continues to tell them that their intelligence officers had discovered the location of their underwater city a while back and that he remembers exactly where it is. When they arrive, the Jedi take it upon themselves to go underwater in order to talk to the Gungans and convince them that the Queen has a plan to defeat the Trade Federation. They eventually found the city underwater, but they realized that it is abandoned. There was nobody there. They come back to the surface and inform all the others as they are left puzzled as what will they do next, not knowing if the Gungans were wiped out or just simply fled to somewhere safe. While everybody starts to worry, Qui-Gon tells the Queen that the Force will be their guide and that he will meditate and find the solution to their problem. As he is meditating, he feels something. A place, a sacred place not far from where they are now, with many life forms surrounding it, which leads Qui-Gon to believe that these life forms are the Gungans that they have been searching for. He informs Obi-Wan that he may have found something and that he should tell the others to follow him. As he is walking toward the forest, he senses them even more, when suddenly they come upon some unknown statues. At that moment, the Gungan guards jump out of their hiding place and are ready to attack. Qui-Gon informs them that they have come in peace and that the Queen of Naboo seeks an audience with His Excellence Boss Nass. Eventually, it is granted, and the Queen begs for Boss Nass to help them free their planet that they share. To the surprise of many, Boss Nass accepts, as they start to devise their plan with the Gungans on how they will create a distraction outside of the city. Because we already know what happens next, like the Gungans are now fighting the droids outside of the city, the Queen has captured Viceroy Gunray, and Anakin accidentally blows up the Trade Federation control ship, we move on to a specific point of the story where everything changes. The fight between Darth Maul, Qui-Gon, and Obi-Wan. The fight begins in the hangar, with Maul showing that he could more than stand his ground against both Jedi. The battle continues as they move on out of the hangar and into a generator complex. Now call it the butterfly effect or something else, but this is the moment that everything changes. You see, as they're fighting on a high platform, Darth Maul kicks Qui-Gon and not Obi-Wan. This means that Qui-Gon fell from a high platform and it took him a while until he climbed back up. Meanwhile, Obi-Wan is dueling with Maul by himself. The duel rages on between Obi-Wan and Darth Maul. Meanwhile, Qui-Gon can't get to them and help his Padawan. Qui-Gon feared that his apprentice might die at the hands of the Sith, and while he had no choice but to be patient until he helps his Padawan, Darth Maul used this opportunity as he knocked Obi-Wan's lightsaber out of his hands and pushed him into the reactor shaft. Obi-Wan was gone. Qui-Gon, seeing this, yelled out his name, all the while trying to control his temper and not be filled with anger. Qui-Gon prepared for the shield doors to open, and as soon as they did, he was more determined than ever to not let this young Sith defeat him as he had defeated his Padawan. Clash after clash, the duel seemed like it could last forever. Although with Obi-Wan's supposed death, Qui-Gon's focus was at an all-time high. He was not about to lose this fight. With one swift stroke, he hit Maul's lightsaber and it stopped functioning. Maul tried to stay alive as much as he could by using the Force as he tried to force push Qui-Gon, but to no avail. Qui-Gon deflected the Force push as he approached the now defenseless Darth Maul. At this time, Qui-Gon suspected that this young Sith was not the Master. He wanted to interrogate him and find out who was his Master, therefore revealing the person who was responsible for the revival of the Sith, as the Jedi believed that the Sith had been extinct for a millennia. Darth Maul refused to answer, telling the Jedi that dark times will fall upon your little council and your republic, as he lunged toward Qui-Gon, meeting his end at the hands of the Jedi and his green lightsaber. At last, Naboo was freed, and in the surface of things, all proceeded well. With Qui-Gon alive, he could now be there to train Anakin and perhaps guide him towards the right path. Before I go any further, I just want to announce that there will be a part 2 and that you fans are invited to participate. Now, with Jar Jar not in the picture, things in episode 2 would go a lot different for the Supreme Chancellor and his emergency powers. And now with Qui-Gon being Anakin's master, there's a new story there too. So in conclusion, I want you fans to comment down below and let me know what would you like to see happen in part 2. What happens to the Chancellor without Jar Jar, and how Qui-Gon would change Anakin's path. Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to leave your suggestions down there on the comments. Have a very fun day, and in closing, don't forget, may the Force be with you always.